can you just lay it out for the listeners? Like how is the simulation hypothesis different than brain-in-a-vat or some form of idealism?
Well, I'm not sure it is different in principle than brain
Yeah.
in the vat, because the brain in the vat could be a version of the simulation hypothesis. So
Yeah.
if the simulation hypothesis is the general idea that our experiences of the world are not veridical, but are in fact simulated by a computer system or some nefarious agent of some sort,
Mm-hmm.
then the brain in the vat hypothesis is just one version of it, because the idea is that you think you have a body, you think you're living in the world that appears to you, but in fact you're a brain that's having all its experiences stimulated artificially through electrodes or whatever.
Yeah.
But of course, it's the same principle. Your experiences are being simulated so that you are inhabiting a virtual world rather than a real world. So the brain in a vat is really just the precursor of the matrix hypothesis, I suppose.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so on the popular level, I've noticed, like you said, people will say maybe we're living in the matrix. Often they don't say computer simulation, but they say matrix. And this computer programmer, Rizvan Virk, wrote a book called The Simulation Hypothesis, creatively titled. And he goes with that version, that we are a brain in a vat, that there's something outside the simulation, like the Matrix, where Neo is in base reality. But in the more, I don't know, intellectual circles, but more into the academy, more following the pure Bostromian view, it's that we are digital consciousness, that we are literally simulated. And so maybe I'll just set out the three premises. Bostrom says, one, that we'll never be technologically advanced enough to create simulated conscious beings like ourselves. Or two, we will reach that level of advancement, but for some reason we don't do it. Maybe for moral reasons, like we together collectively humanity says it's morally wrong to do that, and we make laws and we don't do it. Or three, we're most likely living in a computer simulation, because you take the technological advances that we have now and just project that into the future, 10 years, 20, 100 years if you need to. But looking at our trajectory, it seems like if there's no reason for us not to do it, and we're able to do it, then we probably already have done it, and we're currently living in that simulation. Do you think that's a fair assessment or a fair summary of the argument? And if so, which of the premises do we deny?
Right. Yes, that's right. So Bostrom basically lays out these three options and says you got to pick one of these three doors.
Yeah.
Either door one is we never get to the point where we can actually create a simulation that would be so realistic that beings like us could inhabit it and think it's the real world. So that's
right.
Option one. It's just not technologically feasible, possible. Option two is that the technology does appear, but we're conscientious enough, or we have some sort of inhibiting reason that prevents us from creating such a simulation and populating it.
Mm-hmm.
And then option three is that we can do it, and we will do it, and therefore I suppose we have done it, or someone it's not we, but someone like us has done it, and that would have happened. I think the idea is that it would happen recursively, so that you would have a simulation, and then within the simulation, the same principles apply to the simulation within the simulation.
Right, all the way down. So yeah.
Right, exactly. Sort of Inception style simulations all the way down, or at least there comes a point when there are more simulations than there are of all the worlds that exist. The simulated worlds far outnumber the singular real world, or the base reality, and therefore probabilistically we are in one of those simulated worlds rather than the real world.
Yeah. Well, so I like to motivate this sometimes for people who think it's crazy. Yeah, but let's go a little bit further in looking at it. And for anyone who's watched The Office, in The Office, Dwight Schrute plays this game Second Life, and he makes a second life of Dwight inside the reality. So all you have to do is imagine that second Dwight making a third Dwight, making a fourth Dwight, and we probably would do that if we were able to. And so Bostrom's reasoning is, yeah, there's probably, way more simulated conscious beings than there are base reality beings like we take ourselves to be, and therefore, just probability wise, you should think of yourself as probably being a digital consciousness instead of one of the lucky base reality conscious beings.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it is plausible to think that if it would happen once, then it would happen because the same rationale for the original simulators creating a simulation would apply then to the simulated beings, and so on and so on. And once you kickstart the process, then there's no reason why I suppose you wouldn't have simulations within simulations.